The year was 1912, an era of opulence and innovation. The world marveled at the dawn of a new century, a time of boundless possibility and technological advancement. It was against this backdrop of progress that the RMS Titanic, a ship of unparalleled grandeur and ambition, prepared to embark on her maiden voyage. Imagine a vessel so colossal, so luxuriously appointed that it defied the very definition of a ship. This was not merely a mode of transportation, it was a floating palace, a testament to human ingenuity and the unwavering belief in technological progress. The Titanic was the epitome of luxury and grandeur, a symbol of human achievement at the pinnacle of the Edwardian era. The Titanic was more than just a ship, it was a microcosm of society, carrying within its steel hull a cross-section of humanity, each with their own dreams, aspirations, and stories to tell. From the affluent first-class passengers, ensconced in their opulent suites, to the hopeful immigrants in steerage, seeking a new life on distant shores, the Titanic was a vessel of dreams, carrying the hopes and aspirations of all who sailed aboard. The Titanic's construction was a marvel of engineering, a testament to the skill and craftsmanship of the thousands of workers who labored tirelessly to bring her to life. The shipyard in Belfast, Ireland, hummed with activity, a symphony of clanging metal and the rhythmic thud of hammers as skilled artisans forged the ship's massive hull. Deep within the bowels of the ship, massive boilers, fueled by countless tons of coal, generated the steam needed to power the Titanic's massive engines. The ship's intricate network of pipes, valves, and gauges was a testament to the ingenuity of the engineers who designed her, a testament to the belief that technology could conquer even the most formidable challenges. The ship's size was staggering, dwarfing any other vessel afloat. She stretched over 882 feet in length, her hull towering 175 feet above the waterline. Her four massive funnels, each capable of accommodating a steam locomotive, became iconic symbols of the ship's power and grandeur. The Titanic was a marvel of engineering, a testament to human ingenuity and the boundless ambition of the era. On April 10, 1912, under a sky filled with promise, the Titanic cast off her moorings and set sail from Southampton, England, embarking on her maiden voyage to New York City. The air crackled with excitement as thousands gathered at the docks to bid farewell to the millionaire's special and witness history in the making. The atmosphere on board was electric. Passengers, their faces aglow with anticipation, strolled the decks, marveling at the ship's opulence and the sheer scale of their surroundings. The first-class passengers, a who's who of society's elite, mingled amongst themselves, their laughter and conversation echoing through the ship's grand salons. In steerage, families huddled together, their belongings packed tightly in battered suitcases, their hearts filled with a mixture of trepidation and hope for the new life that awaited them across the vast expanse of the Atlantic. The Titanic was more than just a ship, it was a vessel of dreams, carrying the hopes and aspirations of all who sailed aboard. As the Titanic steamed westward, her powerful engines driving her relentlessly toward her destination, a sense of unease began to creep in, a subtle undercurrent to the prevailing atmosphere of excitement and anticipation. Wireless operators, hunched over their primitive equipment, began receiving a series of increasingly urgent messages from other ships in the vicinity. Messages that spoke of a significant hazard lurking in the ship's path ice. These were not isolated warnings. Ships traversing the North Atlantic in early April were well aware of the dangers posed by icebergs, particularly in the treacherous waters south of Newfoundland. The messages, crackling across the ether, painted a stark picture of the conditions ahead. Despite these warnings, the Titanic maintained her speed, her captain and crew confident in the ship's unsinkable reputation. The warnings, though acknowledged, were seemingly dismissed as mere inconveniences, a testament to the prevailing hubris of the era. The Titanic, it was believed, was impervious to such threats. Section 5. A fateful collision, the night the Unsinkable sank. On the night of April 14, 1912, as the Titanic steamed through a moonless night, the sea deceptively calm, tragedy struck. At 11:40 p.m., a lookout, his eyes straining in the darkness, spotted a shape looming out of the mist ahead. "Iceberg, right ahead!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the stillness of the night. The warning came too late. The Titanic, her massive bulk difficult to maneuver, grazed the iceberg along her starboard side. The impact, though seemingly slight at first, ripped a series of gashes in the ship's hull, breaching several of her watertight compartments. The unsinkable Titanic was mortally wounded. Chaos ensued as the realization of the situation dawned on the passengers and crew. The ship, once a beacon of hope and luxury, was now a sinking tomb, its fate sealed by a combination of human error, technological hubris, and the unforgiving power of nature. The stage was set for one of the most harrowing maritime disasters in history. The Titanic, a marvel of engineering, steamed across the North Atlantic at 22 knots. Despite iceberg warnings, the ship maintained speed, a fatal error in judgment. The belief in her unsinkability proved a dangerous illusion. Captain Edward Smith, known for punctuality, was not easily swayed from his course. His desire for speed would prove to be his undoing. Section 2. The illusion of security, complacency, in the face of danger. As the Titanic steamed westward, her passengers and crew for the most part remained oblivious to the danger lurking in their path. The ship, with its luxurious accommodations and air of invincibility, created a sense of security, a belief that they were immune to the perils of the sea. This illusion of security, however, was shattered in an instant. In the first-class dining saloon, elegantly dressed passengers dined on gourmet meals, their conversations filled with laughter and anticipation for the journey ahead. In steerage, families huddled together, their belongings packed tightly in battered suitcases, their hopes and dreams pinned on the promise of a new life in America. On the bridge, Captain Smith and his officers conferred, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the ship's lanterns. The mood was one of cautious optimism, a sense that they were in control, masters of their fate. This sense of control, however, was an illusion, a dangerous misconception that would soon be exposed by the unforgiving power of the sea. Section 3. Distress signals ignored. A chorus of warnings unheeded. The wireless operators aboard the Titanic, hunched over their primitive equipment, their ears attuned to the static-filled ether, played a crucial role in the events leading up to the disaster. Throughout the day and into the night of April 14th, they received a series of increasingly urgent messages from other ships in the vicinity. Messages that spoke of a significant hazard lurking in the Titanic's path. Ice. These were not isolated warnings. Ships traversing the North Atlantic in early April were well aware of the dangers posed by icebergs, particularly in the treacherous waters south of Newfoundland. The messages, crackling across the ether, painted a stark picture of the conditions ahead, a chorus of warnings that should have given Captain Smith pause. Some of these warnings were relayed to the bridge, where they were acknowledged but seemingly dismissed as mere inconveniences. The Titanic, it was believed, was impervious to such threats. Other warnings, however, were not relayed at all, lost in the flurry of activity on the bridge, or perhaps deemed insignificant by the operators themselves. Section 4. The inevitability of impact. A disaster unfolds in slow motion. As the Titanic steamed through the moonless night, the sea deceptively calm, a sense of unease began to creep in, a subtle undercurrent to the prevailing atmosphere of excitement and anticipation. The air, once filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation, seemed to grow still, heavy with a sense of foreboding. On the bridge, Captain Smith, his face etched with concern, paced back and forth, his eyes scanning the horizon. The warnings he had received earlier weighed heavily on his mind, but he had made his decision. The Titanic would maintain her speed. In the crow's nest, high above the deck, the lookouts, their eyes straining in the darkness, shivered in the biting cold. They had been warned to be extra vigilant, but the vastness of the ocean and the darkness of the night made their task daunting. Section 5. The chilling reality. The unsinkable ship begins to sink. The impact, when it came, was not the deafening roar one might expect from such a catastrophic collision. It was rather a prolonged scraping sound, a shudder that ran through the ship, followed by an eerie silence. Passengers, startled from their slumber or their evening revelry, stumbled out onto the decks, their faces etched with confusion and a growing sense of dread. Word spread quickly through the ship: they had struck an iceberg. The news, at first met with disbelief, soon gave way to panic as the true extent of the damage became apparent. The unsinkable Titanic was taking on water, her fate hanging precariously in the balance. Below decks, in the bowels of the ship, watertight doors slammed shut, their massive steel bulkheads designed to contain the flooding. But the damage was too extensive, the impact too severe. Water poured into the ship's forward compartments, its relentless advance signaling the beginning of the end. The crew of the Titanic, faced with the unthinkable, struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the disaster unfolding before their eyes. The ship, once a symbol of human ingenuity and the epitome of luxury, was now a sinking tomb, its fate sealed by a combination of human error, technological hubris, and the unforgiving power of nature. Orders were shouted, but they were often lost in the confusion and the growing panic. Lifeboats, woefully inadequate for the number of passengers and crew on board, were prepared for launch, their canvas hulls swaying precariously above the deck. Amidst the chaos and confusion, acts of courage and selflessness were juxtaposed against scenes of cowardice and despair. The band played on, their music a haunting soundtrack to the unfolding tragedy, a desperate attempt to maintain a semblance of order in the face of impending doom. The night sky, once a tapestry of twinkling stars, now pressed down upon the stricken Titanic, a vast, uncaring void reflecting the terror unfolding on the water below. The ship, once a beacon of warmth and light, now stood as a silhouette against the starlit expanse, its lights flickering erratically, casting long, dancing shadows across the rapidly emptying decks. The icy Atlantic air, sharp and unforgiving, carried with it the cries of the desperate and the terrified. The initial shock had given way to a chilling realization. The unsinkable Titanic was indeed sinking, and the icy grip of the North Atlantic threatened to swallow them all. The lifeboats, lowered precariously into the churning sea, offered the only glimmer of hope in the face of impending doom. Each boat, a tiny speck of salvation in the vast expanse of the ocean, carried with it the prayers and goodbyes of those left behind, their faces etched with a mixture of hope and despair. In the face of unimaginable terror and the certainty of death, the unwritten law of the sea, women and children first, echoed across the tilting decks of the sinking Titanic. It was a code of conduct born from centuries of maritime tradition, a testament to chivalry and the instinct to protect the vulnerable. Officers, their voices strained but resolute, barked orders, striving to maintain some semblance of order amidst the growing panic. Women and children, bundled in blankets against the biting cold, were ushered towards the lifeboats, their eyes wide with fear, their hands clutching rosary beads or clutching the hands of their children. Yet even this time-honored tradition was tested as the icy grip of fear tightened around the hearts of men facing their own mortality. Some stepped back, adhering to the code, their faces etched with a mixture of resignation and despair. Others, driven by the primal instinct to survive, pushed forward, their desperation palpable. The decision to board a lifeboat was, for many, an agonizing choice between hope and despair, loyalty and survival. To leave the perceived safety of the ship, even a ship as mortally wounded as the Titanic, meant facing the vast, unforgiving ocean in a flimsy lifeboat, a tiny speck of wood tossed about in the churning sea. For husbands and wives, the decision was particularly heart-wrenching. The bonds of marriage were tested as men wrestled with the agonizing choice of joining their wives in the lifeboats or remaining on board, facing their fate together. Some couples clung to each other, refusing to be parted, their love a beacon of hope in the face of death. For families traveling in steerage, the decision was often made for them. Confined below decks, their access to the lifeboats limited by the ship's rigid social hierarchy, many families found themselves trapped, their hopes of survival dwindling with each passing moment. As the Titanic sank lower in the water, the angle of the deck growing ever steeper, the veneer of order and civility began to crumble. The primal instinct to survive, to escape the watery grave that awaited them, overwhelmed all other considerations. The air, thick with fear and the stench of salt water, crackled with a palpable sense of desperation. Men, their faces contorted in terror, surged towards the remaining lifeboats, their pleas for mercy drowned out by the roar of the escaping steam and the cries of the terrified. The officers, their authority challenged, struggled to maintain control, their commands lost in the maelstrom of human desperation. Fights broke out, fueled by fear and the dwindling hope of salvation. The once grand staircase, a symbol of the ship's opulence, became a bottleneck for the fleeing masses, a terrifying tableau of human desperation. Amidst the chaos and terror, the heart-wrenching cries of mothers separated from their children pierced the night. Families, torn apart by the chaotic scramble for the lifeboats, clung to each other desperately, their fingers intertwined, their eyes locked in a silent farewell. The bonds of family, forged in love and tested in tragedy, were stretched to their breaking point. Children, their faces streaked with tears and their eyes wide with terror, were passed from hand to hand, their small bodies lifted above the heads of the surging crowd, their pleas for their mothers echoing across the tilting deck. Some were reunited with their families in the lifeboats, their tearful embraces a testament to the enduring power of love. Others, however, were not so fortunate. The image of children, their small hands pressed against the railings of the sinking ship, their cries swallowed by the night, would forever haunt the memories of those who survived, a stark reminder of the human cost of that tragic night. A divided fate. The stark reality of class lines. The ship of dreams was, in reality, a microcosm of the rigid social hierarchy of the Edwardian era. Nowhere was this more apparent than in the stark contrast between the experiences of the first-class passengers and those relegated to the less opulent accommodations of steerage, the third-class passengers whose hopes and dreams were as vast as the ocean they were now at the mercy of. This social divide, firmly in place during the voyage, would become a matter of life and death as the Titanic began to sink. The women and children first protocol, while intended to prioritize the vulnerable, was often applied unevenly, with first-class passengers given preferential treatment in the chaotic scramble for the lifeboats. Locked below third-class passengers trapped by prejudice. The sinking of the Titanic exposed not only the fallibility of technology, but also the ugly underbelly of social injustice that prevailed during that era. As the magnitude of the disaster became apparent, many third-class passengers found themselves trapped below decks, their escape routes blocked by gates and locked doors, their pleas for help ignored or dismissed by crew members more concerned with maintaining order among the upper-class passengers. The reasons for this callous disregard for the lives of the third-class passengers were complex and multifaceted. Some historians argue that language barriers played a role, with many of the crew members unable to understand the pleas of the non-English-speaking immigrants huddled below decks. Others point to the prevailing social attitudes of the time, which often viewed immigrants and the working class as less deserving of saving. Whatever the reasons, the outcome was tragically clear. The third-class passengers, their lives deemed less valuable, were left to fend for themselves as the icy Atlantic waters rose around them. Whispers in the dark. The language barrier amplifies fear. The terror that gripped the passengers and crew of the Titanic was amplified for many of the third-class passengers by the added barrier of language. Hailing from various countries and speaking a multitude of tongues, many immigrants found themselves unable to understand the frantic commands of the crew or the pleas of their fellow passengers. In the darkness and confusion, misinformation spread like wildfire, fueled by fear and the inability to communicate effectively. Rumors swirled through the cramped quarters of steerage, whispers of hope mingled with cries of despair, creating a cacophony of sound that only heightened the sense of panic. Families, separated in the chaos, searched frantically for their loved ones, their calls and responses lost in the babble of voices. The inability to communicate effectively, to understand the unfolding disaster and the instructions being given, added another layer of terror and uncertainty to the already horrific ordeal of the third-class passengers. Even in the face of unimaginable tragedy and the depths of human selfishness, stories of courage, compassion, and selflessness emerged from the sinking of the Titanic. Amidst the chaos and despair, ordinary individuals, their lives forever intertwined by this shared tragedy, rose to the occasion, their actions a testament to the enduring human spirit. One such story is that of the band, which continued to play as the ship sank, their music a source of comfort and solace for those facing their final moments. These musicians, their names forever etched in the annals of history, chose to meet their fate with dignity and grace, their music a final act of defiance against the encroaching darkness. There were also countless acts of individual heroism, often overlooked in the larger narrative of the disaster. Passengers who gave up their spots in lifeboats to others, crew members who worked tirelessly to assist those in need, and individuals who displayed extraordinary courage and compassion in the face of their own mortality. These stories, though often untold, serve as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can shine through. As the Titanic slipped beneath the waves, taking with her the dreams and aspirations of over 1,500 souls, the icy Atlantic waters closed over the wreckage, a watery shroud obscuring the horrors that lay beneath. In the aftermath of the disaster, as the world grappled with the enormity of the tragedy, the stark reality of the class divisions that had shaped the fate of the passengers and crew became tragically apparent. The recovery efforts, hampered by the limitations of technology and the vastness of the ocean, focused primarily on recovering the bodies of those lost in the first and second class sections. Many of the bodies of the third-class passengers, their lives deemed less valuable in life, were left to rest on the ocean floor, their stories untold, their fates a stark reminder of the social injustices of the time. The sinking of the Titanic, while a tragedy for all involved, exposed the raw underbelly of social inequality, a stark reminder that even in death, class distinctions persisted. The ship of dreams had become a symbol of the fragility of human life and the enduring power of social stratification. The news of the Titanic's sinking, carried by the crackling static of wireless transmissions, spread across the globe like a shockwave, leaving in its wake a profound sense of disbelief and sorrow. The unsinkable ship, a symbol of human ingenuity and the epitome of luxury, had perished in the icy depths of the North Atlantic, taking with her the dreams and aspirations of over 1,500 souls. The world struggled to comprehend the magnitude of the tragedy. Newspapers, their front pages dominated by headlines proclaiming the disaster, published harrowing accounts from survivors, their words painting a vivid picture of the chaos, terror, and heroism that unfolded on that fateful night. The disaster transcended geographical boundaries and social strata, from the bustling streets of New York City, where anxious relatives awaited news of their loved ones, to the quiet villages of Ireland, where families mourned the loss of sons and daughters who had embarked on a journey in search of a better life. The world shared in the collective grief. Section 2, the blame game begins, searching for answers in the wreckage. As the initial shock and sorrow subsided, a wave of anger and indignation swept the globe. How could such a tragedy occur? Who was to blame for the loss of so many lives? The sinking of the Titanic, once a symbol of human progress and technological achievement, now became a lightning rod for scrutiny, a catalyst for a global reckoning with the limits of human ambition and the consequences of complacency. The inquiries and investigations began almost immediately, their scope and intensity fueled by the public's insatiable desire for answers. Every aspect of the disaster, from the ship's design and construction to the actions of the captain and crew, was subjected to intense scrutiny. The blame game, however, proved to be a complex and multifaceted affair. Was it the ship's speed, the lack of sufficient lifeboats, the captain's judgment, or a combination of factors that led to the tragedy? The search for answers, much like the wreckage of the Titanic itself, lay scattered across the ocean floor, obscured by layers of speculation, conjecture, and the passage of time. Section 3. The sea gives up its secrets, inquiries, and investigations. The inquiries into the sinking of the Titanic, both in the United States and Great Britain, were among the most extensive and thorough maritime investigations ever conducted. These inquiries, driven by a desire to understand the causes of the disaster and prevent similar tragedies in the future, unearthed a wealth of information about the events leading up to the sinking, the actions of the crew and passengers, and the regulatory failures that contributed to the loss of so many lives. The inquiries revealed a complex tapestry of contributing factors, a combination of human error, technological limitations, and regulatory oversights that, when woven together, created the conditions for disaster. The ship's speed, the lack of sufficient lifeboats, the inadequate training of the crew in emergency procedures, and the failure to heed ice warnings all played a role in the unfolding tragedy. The inquiries also revealed stories of extraordinary courage and selflessness, as well as acts of cowardice and disregard for human life. The testimony of survivors, their words often choked with emotion, provided a poignant and often harrowing account of the human toll of the disaster. Section 4. A legacy of reform, solace, and the birth of modern maritime safety. The sinking of the Titanic, while a tragedy of unimaginable proportions, had a profound and lasting impact on the maritime industry, leading to sweeping reforms that would forever change the way ships were designed, built, and operated. The most significant of these reforms was the establishment of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, a treaty that set new standards for maritime safety and established international regulations that govern ship construction, equipment, and operations to this day. SOLAS, adopted in 1914, addressed many of the shortcomings exposed by the Titanic disaster. It mandated that ships carry enough lifeboats for all passengers and crew, established requirements for radio communication, and implemented procedures for ice patrol and iceberg warnings. The legacy of the Titanic extends far beyond the SOLAS Convention. The disaster served as a stark reminder of the importance of humility in the face of nature's power, the need for constant vigilance in the pursuit of safety, and the enduring responsibility to protect human life at sea. Section 5. The Titanic's Enduring Lessons, a Century of Reflection and Reform. More than a century after the Titanic slipped beneath the waves, the story of the ship of dreams continues to resonate, a haunting reminder of the fragility of human life and the enduring power of the sea. The Titanic's story has transcended generations, inspiring countless books, films, documentaries, and even underwater expeditions to the wreckage site. Each retelling offers a fresh perspective on the disaster, exploring the human drama, the technological failures, and the social injustices that converged on that fateful night. The Titanic's enduring legacy lies not only in the tangible reforms that followed the disaster but also in the intangible lessons that continue to shape our understanding of risk, responsibility, and the importance of human connection in the face of adversity. The ship of dreams may have sunk, but its story continues to sail on, a timeless tale of tragedy, heroism, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The frigid waters of the North Atlantic closed over the Titanic in 1912, swallowing a monument to human ambition and invaluable lessons. The world watched in horror, the tragedy etching itself into collective memory. Over a century later, the echoes of the Titanic's demise remind us of the perils of hubris and the power of nature. The Titanic's story is often recounted through technological failure and regulatory oversight, but it's crucial to remember this is a human tragedy. Each life lost represented hopes, dreams, and aspirations, a reminder of individual stories of love, loss, and resilience. The rigid class divisions cast a long shadow over the Titanic's final hours, with those in steerage facing significant barriers to survival. The women and children first protocol was often applied unevenly, highlighting social inequalities even in dire circumstances. The Titanic story, though rooted in a specific time and place, has transcended its historical context to become a cultural touchstone, a tale that continues to captivate and resonate with audiences across generations. From James Cameron's epic film to countless documentaries, books, and even museum exhibits, the Titanic's allure shows no signs of waning. Perhaps it's the sheer scale of the tragedy, the unimaginable loss of life that unfolded on that seemingly tranquil April night that continues to grip our collective imagination. Or perhaps it's the human drama, the stories of courage and cowardice, love and loss, that played out against the backdrop of that sinking ship. Whatever the reason, the Titanic story serves as a potent reminder of our own mortality, of the capricious nature of fate, and the enduring power of hope in the face of adversity. It's a story that compels us to confront our own fears, to examine our priorities, and to appreciate the preciousness of life and the importance of human connection. The Titanic's legacy extends far beyond the realm of historical curiosity or cinematic spectacle. It serves as a solemn reminder of the critical importance of maritime safety, a responsibility shared by shipbuilders, owners, operators, regulators, and passengers alike. The tragedy spurred the creation of the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, or SOLAS, a comprehensive set of regulations that govern everything from ship design and construction to the provision of life-saving equipment and the training of crew members in emergency procedures. SOLAS, continually updated and refined over the decades, stands as a testament to the Titanic's enduring impact on the maritime industry. However, the pursuit of safety is not simply a matter of adhering to regulations. It requires a culture of vigilance, a commitment to continuous improvement, and a willingness to learn from past mistakes. The Titanic's story serves as a stark reminder that complacency can have catastrophic consequences and that the pursuit of safety is an ongoing process, not a destination. The The Titanic, once a symbol of human ambition and technological achievement, now rests on the ocean floor, a silent sentinel guarding the memories of those who perished and those who survived that fateful night. The ship may be gone, but its story continues to echo through time, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of the sea. The Titanic's story continues to fascinate, inspire, and warn us. It's a story that compels us to grapple with complex questions about risk and responsibility, social justice and human nature, technological progress, and the limits of human control. It's a story that reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, the human spirit can endure, and that even the darkest of nights can give way to the dawn. As we sail into the future, the Titanic's story serves as both a beacon and a warning, a reminder to approach the world with a balance of ambition and humility, innovation and respect for the forces that shape our lives. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the untold side of the Titanic story. History has its triumphs, but it also holds unsettling truths that shape our understanding of the past. If you found this exploration thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating tales from history, technology, and beyond. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next adventure on Tech and Trek.